ढोका छैन, झ्याल छैन, गोठमा बत्तीको सुविधा छैन, डर लाग्छ।
Sunita, a lively and inquisitive 16-year-old, leads us along the narrow terraces to her home and her menstrual hut.
के नि सुत्ने बेला यहाँ नत्र त्यही खाना खान जानुलाई त्यहाँ भित्र जान्छौँ, खानासाना खान्छौँ, अनि कहिले पानी सानी परेर पनि भित्र जान्छौँ।
Menstruation is seen as a taboo, a time of impurity, and during their period, women must remain outside the house. Chowpadi is a practice dictated by Hindu shaman. During menstruation, women are allowed to work, but they can't share the comforts of home.
There's no door. There aren't any windows. It's dark. She's scared. She's scared every month. She's banished from her home to live here, in a structure with nothing but a roof and 2 platforms. She sleeps on the top one and eats and drinks on the bottom one. She's banished even after childbirth, straight after childbirth. It's barbaric.
The kitchen is a big no-go zone. I could not touch the stove, fridge and water sources, so the rule was made to just not enter the kitchen. I also could not eat at the dining table with everyone else, so I would have to sit and eat in this space next to the kitchen and dining room. I would have to go outside to wash my dishes even during the freezing cold winter nights. Despite being a gynecologist and fertility specialist, it felt ironic because I could not change these instructions when living at my in-laws. Initially, when on my period, I had to sleep on a separate bed, which was a mattress that would be laid on the floor next to my actual bed. After a few times, I did not follow this as it was out of the view of the members of the family. I was not allowed in my in-laws' room and could not be in the same room as any of the male members of the family either. The prayer room was highly restricted. Receiving blessings from God is prohibited. I had to bend away from the room door if I wanted to go into the balcony. It felt very unfair, especially knowing it's all just a natural process. Even on the balcony, there were areas had to avoid. There are a few plants in the balcony that are worshipped, which were not to be touched. There is a belief that if touched by the menstruating woman, it will die.
Growing up in Nepal, I had to abide by most of the same rules as my mum did whenever I was on my period and visiting my grandparents. I couldn't go to the kitchen, I couldn't eat with my family and had to wash my dishes outside the house, and I couldn't go into the prayer room either. I got tired of it very quickly, and I couldn't exactly move out to avoid this spatial control. I didn't want to stop visiting either, so I took matters into my own hands and stopped making my period so public to tear away the systemic superstitious wall that my grandparents had built because of societal beliefs. In hindsight, these modern restrictions are urbanized designs of the harsh constraints originating from the deep-rooted patriarchal practices that are still observed today and affecting women throughout their reproductive life course. It's important to understand and start conversations about these types of practices related to systemic sexism through experience, research, questions, and awareness. And break down these invisible walls.
I am aware to not recline against a wall, in case I leak onto it when I'm on my period. Wipeable chair surfaces are kind of preference to fabric during this time. I am very conscious of where I stand, and when I stand, quite literally. Whenever I get up from sitting on a chair, I always check to see if I have leaked.
I would check with my friends if there were any signs of my period on my clothing or on furniture if I felt it was a possibility. I would go to the toilet during lessons, if the teacher would allow, because they were quieter than at break lunch times. I didn't want people knowing I was on my period, and sanitary pad removal isn't a silent process, so I wanted the toilets to be less populated.
I situate myself near a toilet during the time I am menstruating. For example, if I am studying in a library, I will choose a spot that's conveniently located near the ladies' room. In the current study from home flexibility, I am careful to align my at-home days with my menstruating ones, so I can relax and make frequent toilet trips to the loo in the comfort of my home, to avoid having to conceal a sanitary towel in my pocket as I tiptoe to the ladies. I still avoid getting into religious sacred spaces, but it's not because I still hold the same beliefs. God has his own house rules. If I'm not on my period, I always enter the churchyards that are on my way to work and bow for 5 seconds. It helps me get through the day. If I am on my period, I avoid even going near the churches. I still choose a corner when being in public spaces. I never walk in the middle of a crowd and never wear white.